Does political rhetoric have consequences? Take a look at the scene outside the rally. I'm joined now for a special discussion. Donald Trump out today with a sarcastic tweet calling out Democratic Congressman Elijah Cummings basically for being the potential victim of a burglary, saying too bad and saying he was being a wise guy. Context is everything because Donald Trump has been blasting Cummings, Baltimore, and Democrats at his rally.
The rage-filled Democrat Party is trying to tear America apart. The homicide rate in Baltimore is significantly higher than El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala.
Does political rhetoric have consequences? Take a look at the scene outside the rally. I'm joined now for a special discussion with Rolling Stone's Jamil Smith. His recent article is called "Trump's Racism is a National Emergency." He's been reporting and documenting a lot of these issues for a long time. What do you see as coming to a head here?
Well, I see that Trump's rhetoric is manifesting itself, obviously, you see in violence, but also we see his rhetoric manifesting itself in this kind of mob mentality. And I think that's what's really dangerous. We're seeing it, continuing to spread throughout the country, and really it's going to manifest itself not just in this kind of, one-off violence maybe outside of his rallies, but also I think what you're going to see outside of potentially voting sites is voter intimidation. We've seen him encourage this kind of behavior before. And I think what you saw there with him talking about Afghanistan and Baltimore's violence statistics, we see him belittling African-American and other communities of color, really simply for the sake of getting votes. We see him using our communities really for electoral fodder. And there were about, I believe, 309 homicides in Baltimore last year, and some of which were as young as 5 months old. And I think that those lives need to be valued, and the president needs to value them. He's the president of Baltimore, too.
He is. You put it like that, and it's true. He's the president of all Americans. Whether or not he has tried to be a different type of president, his job, his oath is that, as you say. And then you look at what his own folks acknowledge, which is it's nothing new. You've written about it, talked about it. A lot of people know about it, which is the history of anti-black violence and terrorism in this country. Mm-hmm. And then look at FBI Director Chris Wray talking about this. This is Trump's appointee on where does the violence come from. Take a look.
A majority of the domestic terrorism cases that we've investigated are motivated by some version of what you might call white supremacist violence.
Yeah. In a country where white supremacist violence is amongst the top terroristic threats, it's really, really dangerous to have a white nationalist president. It's untenable. So I think that when you have a president who's not only committed crimes that we can recognize, okay, we got obstruction of justice amongst the other crimes which have been alleged or even proven. And now we also know that he's a white nationalist, and in a country where white supremacist violence is amongst the top terroristic threats. How can you stand idle and say that we're just going to wait for the voters to take him out in 2020? How can you stand idle and think that we're going to have a fair election at all? And think that the Russians or whatever countries that he's enlisting to help him are going to stand idle and say, hey, we're just going to let the elections take place and everything's going to be fair and equal.
And the last thing I want to ask you about is the way that he uses culture to communicate. Mm-hmm. You watch the contrast with so many of the Democrats running for president, and many of whom are upholding values that are quite contrary to Donald Trump. But then you look at the heat and the entertainment value of the way he mixes this stuff in, which also operates as a political shield for him to say, well, maybe this or that was a joke. But you take it all together, we're going to show you some of it, show the viewers some of this from 2016. Doesn't look like a joke. The more you learn, the more you see. Take a look at Trump at the rallies.
If you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you? Seriously. Do you know what they used to do to guys like that when they were in a place like this? They'd be carried out on a stretcher, folks. Like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you. All right, yeah, get him out. Try not to hurt him. If you do, I'll defend you in court. Don't worry about it.
And a lot of this stuff is played for laughs. I think this is where the role of the press comes in. People have to stop playing this stuff live. People have to stop playing this stuff as if it's a joke. And people have to contextualize these kinds of comments as if they are dangerous, as if they are threats. People have to understand what this president is doing and why he's doing it.
Yeah. Jamil Smith, thank you so much for being here. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.